Hello, I'm Alexander from BotCity, and in this video I will show you step by step how you can create a more advanced automation using BotCity's tools, which includes tips on how to make the process easier for you and also on how to avoid problems down the road. This video was written and voiced by Alexander Silva and reviewed by Hugo Slepkin. The prerequisite for this tutorial is basically being able to create a BotCity web bot, which means you would need Python version 3.7 or newer on your computer, the cookie cutter to start a new project from BotCity's template, and a copy of the WebDriver. So if you're using Chrome, make sure you grab the Chromium WebDriver, and if you're using Firefox, grab the Gecko WebDriver. If you do not know how to do that, then check out our previous tutorial on how to create your first BotCity web bot in the link in the description below. This tutorial has 5 steps. In the first one, we will overview the process to make sure we know what our bot has to do and what is the best way to do it. In step 2, we will go over the project setup. In step 3, we will start with the code. In step 4, we will use the Bot Studio to collect the images our bot requires for its computer vision. In step 5, we will perform a final test to make sure that our bot is working as expected. Step 1. BotCity's technology will simulate your keyboard and your mouse, and it will read the information on your screen as if it were a real user. Which means that since we're building a robot that goes a bit beyond the basics, it's a very good idea to perform the process manually if you are able, so you can better visualize how you would automate that process. So this is what we will do in today's video. We'll go to the Pixlr website, which is an online photo editor, and then we will select the advanced photo editor with a click, and then we will go to load URL. We'll click on it. We will paste a URL of an image of our choice. So let's see, what about a hammer? We will use this image right here. So I'll copy this address, I'll paste here, and this is exactly what the bot will do later. It will click load and the image right here. Right now, let's think about something we can do with this image, right? And we could go over here on details. Now let's invert this image first, and then we can come to Gaussian Blur. Let's add some blur. Let's say 7. Click apply, and then we will try to find edges, and then we will invert the image again, and this is going to be the final result. It's kind of a draw version of our hammer. It looks as if it was drawn by a pencil or something, which is cool. It's good enough to show how to automate an image editor. You could do something a bit more complex, you could perform other things in this image, but our idea here is just to generate a visual process so we have something a bit more solid to work on. Step 2. Let's use cookie cutter to create a new project. So just use this command with the Python template link from BotCity, and we will create a web project. So let's see, bot ID will be image editor, project name will be an image editor. This is an image editor bot. There we go. Now we can open this project with PyCharm and start editing the source code. Alright, let's start by removing things we're not going to need in this tutorial. So we won't need actually, let's leave the master integration for this tutorial, but we will leave it uncommented for now. We will not use the Firefox, however. And the path to the WebDriver binary will be Chrome driver, which will be inside our bots folder. Now let's not forget to make a copy of our chromedriver.exe file to our bot folder, and then need to uncomment this line of code right here, and then we could perform a quick test, just make sure it's working, and yes, it's working. Step 3. Now this is the funny part. Let's go to the coding itself. First thing we will do is we will have our bot open the Pixlr website. And once we're here, we have to click in this button, which will take us to the advanced photo editor. But, and this is a very important tip that I'll leave for you guys, instead of clicking this button, as you can see, we could go straight to this web page right here. It's just pixlr.com/e. If we wanted to use the easy graphic designs, it would be an X. So we can skip one search and one click by going straight to the pixlr.com/e website. So keep your eyes open for this kind of things where parts of your automation where you can take shortcuts to make the process easier. Alright, so our bot will come straight to this page and then we'll search for the load URL and click on it. So this is the part where I would go to the bot studio to generate the code to click on this load URL. But instead, I will do all of that later. I will leave all the bot studio parts for later. And instead, I'll just leave a comment stating click load URL. I think it's gonna be faster this way if we, instead of going back and forth between PyCharm and the bot studio. So once it clicks here, it has to paste the URL. And in this case, I'll just hard code it, but we will change that later. But for now, let's leave it hard coded, just so you have something to test. Okay, but there is a small detail right here. Once I click this load URL button, there's a message box seems to appear really fast, but maybe that won't be the case. Maybe my internet could be lagging, maybe their website could be having some trouble, and this URL message box could take longer to appear. So how do we make our bot resistant to that kind of thing, resistant to internet problems and computers? So how do we make our bot resistant to this kind of problem? There is a small trick that we can use, and which is to find the load button, and only once it finds that load button it will paste this URL and then it will click the load button. And yes, you can do it like this. You can find the button, do something else in between, and then click on that button. That's fine as long as you don't override this find with another find. So anyway, we will paste this URL, click the load button, and then we will have our image. Now what we want to do with this image is to click adjustment, then click invert, then click filter, details, Gaussian blur, and then filter, find edges, and finally adjustment invert again. So this is the whole process, and we can just put all this into the code. We'll start with the invert filter, which will go like this: find adjustment. It's actually going to be a find click adjustment, and then click invert. Find click invert. Okay, and then we have to find and click filter. Move our mouse to details. We do not need to click details. If we click it, it won't work. So we have to move our mouse to details and then find and click the Gaussian blur. So we will find and click filter, then find, move to details, find and click Gaussian blur, and then as a common user, this is what we do, right? We slide this bar until we find a value that is good enough for us. But that's not very good for the bot because first it's a very subjective thing to do. Like, is 7 better than 8? That's a very hard thing to decide for a robot. Actually, it's a very hard thing to decide as a human as well. So let's leave that to the artists, and in this case we'll just use 7. But anyway, if we click right here and slide it until we have the number 7 right there, that's kind of costly for the bot because it will have to click right here, slide it a little bit, read the screen to find the number 7. It will have to wait a very long period of time to make sure that it has read the entire screen and it didn't find the number 7, and then you have to slide a little bit further and so on, so on. That's not a good process. And this is the kind of difference you have to keep your mind on when you are programming a automation. So instead, this is what we're going to do. We're going to find this amount right here, and we're going to click relative a number of pixels to the right, and that will land us right here. And once we click here, if we just type 7, you will see that it does not quite work. So instead we have to click here, press Ctrl A to select all, and then we can press 7. This is the kind of detail that you need to pay attention to when you're programming. So if you need to hit Ctrl A or not, that's the kind of thing you are looking for. Anyway, find, click relative. So we will find the amount, and then we will click relative to the right, and then we will self.paste 7. Okay, that's good enough. And then we will click apply. So we will find and click apply. That's enough for the Gaussian blur. Now we can go to, it will be filter and find edges. Alright, find edges, find click filter, find, click find edges, and that's it. And then we just come to adjustment and invert. So invert filter again. We can just do find, click adjustment and find, click invert, and that's it. And once all that is done, we want to export or download this image, right? So we would have to come to File, click on it, and then move our mouse to the export, and then click on Quick Export Images PNG. And that's it, the image will be downloaded. So in order to do that, it's pretty simple. We just go by find, click, File, find, move, export, and then find, click, quick export. And once we're done with the save file, I think it's safe to say that our process has been finished, so we can mark this task as finished in the BotMaestro platform. To do that, we need to uncomment this import right here, and it will allow us to use some of the classes from the BotCity Maestro. I do not think we need to wait 10 seconds. Oh no, it's actually a good idea to wait, so it will make sure that our file has been downloaded properly. Okay, so we're ready to go to the Bot Studio. Step 4. Now that we have the entire process structured in these comments, we will go to the Bot Studio, create a new project, which we will call Image Editor. Then have to select the proper folders. And now you can start replacing these comments with actual code. We will start with this find load. So you take a print of the screen, and then you can click once to zoom, click once again to start a region selector. The first click will be discarded, so don't think much about it. We will perform a find and a click. However, the space actually goes between the find and the click, as we have discussed in part 3. So it's like this. The bot will click load URL. It will paste the hammer URL, which is this one, and then it has to find and click the load button. Take a print. Loads the URL. Very good. Once it clicks load, we will be in this screen, and then it has to find and click adjustment. Then it has to find and click invert. Oops, I need to take a print with this menu open. Wrong menu. There we go. We will have to find and click invert. And then we can go to the Gaussian Blur. So we will start by find and clicking filter. Then we have to find and move to this details right here. Next one is the Gaussian Blur. I misclicked. Okay, there we go. And then we have to find and click relative. Have to find the amount label. And perform a click relative. So we can do it like this. Perfect. Then it will paste 7. I think I have overwritten a Ctrl A that was supposed to be here. Let me do this on PyCharm. Oh, This was not supposed to be here. There we go. Fixed. Now we have to find and click the apply button. Oops, I ended up losing the apply because it didn't refresh this document before committing the apply. Yeah, that's better now. Find click filter. We already have the speed of code right here, so we can just copy this instead of doing the process again. Then we have to find and click find ages. There we go. Now we have to find and click adjustments. I think we already had the code for that. Yeah, we did. But that's fine. We do already have the code for the invert, so I'm just going to copy this instead of doing it again. Good. Now we have to find and click File. Then we have to find and move to the export option. So we cannot click on it because it does not work. We just have to find and move to that position. As you can see, the background is actually transparent, so maybe we will run into some problems because of that, or maybe not. We really have to test it out, and if we do run into problems, there are ways we can deal with them, so we will see. Now I could do this, and this way I would be making a pretty big region selection, but that would not be very fast once the bot's running. So one thing I can do instead is to only use the export image part of this region. That is enough to identify, that is enough for the bot to find the right button to click, and it's gonna run faster. So that's a smart move right there. Let's delete this. Let's take a look at how it looks on PyCharm to make sure there is nothing weird going on. That looks good. Now we're ready to test this bot and see if it's working. Step 5. Let's run this bot and see what happens. Oops, something went wrong. Let me take a look. It seems like it did not paste this URL. It's because it was actually supposed to be after the find load, not after the find load URL. Yeah, let's see if it works now. Looks good. Yeah, now it works as expected. Very, very good.